Lolth was once known as Arashni, the Weaver of Destiny, a lesser deity of the Seldarine, the elven pantheon of gods. As a goddess of weavers and a spinner of fate, the destiny of the Sizranesti, the Dark Elves, was placed in her by the decree of her husband, Corellon Lorethian, creator of the elves and leader of the Seldarine. The union between Corellon Lorethian and the Weaver of Destiny bore two children, the lesser deities Varon, the Masked Lord, and Elistre, the Silver Maiden. Despite all of this, Arashni was a vain and jealous schemer who envied her husband. She continued to spend numerous years alongside the traitor angel Asmodeus. His dark whispers elevated evil thoughts of betrayal to her mind, and it came to a head when the primeval pact was being written. Certain deities complicated matters during this time, especially when it came to what certain deities wished to be considered as blasphemous or transgression. What was considered blasphemy to one deity was acceptable or even encouraged by another. Grumsh, god of orcs for instance, wanted being an elf to be declared a blasphemous act, while Erethanol, god of slaughter, wished to declare having an excessive amount of blood in one's body, he defined excessive as more than a mugful, as an act considered blasphemy. Naturally, the more rational gods quickly vetoed these extreme suggestions in favour of more reasonable ideas. Arashni, given her vanity, was naturally one of the more troublesome petitioners. Arashni petitioned to have any negative words said about her, whether it came from the mouth of a halfling, dwarf, or elf, to be considered as blasphemy. The other deities, including Corellon, denied her request. After all, how could a mortal have free will if every word they spoke was to be punished and controlled? Still, as appeasement, they allowed her to have any negative words said by those under her domain, her Dark Elves, to constitute blasphemy, and gave her permission to deal with the Dark Elves as she saw fit. But to Lolth, this was an insult, and being denied her vanity, she secretly planned to overthrow Corellon and replace him as first of the Seldarine. She would do this by using her position as a loved one of Corellon. She had hoped to bring her children Varon and Elistre to great power. Her daughter, Elistre, refused to take part in her mother's scheme and secretly revealed the treachery and betrayal of Arashni to Corellon. Distraught but determined, Corellon faced his betrayer in battle and soundly routed her. Corellon looked upon the defeated form of his betrayer, mother of his children and once beloved by him. It was then that the first of the Seldarine broken-heartedly cursed his love into the form of a hideous, spider-bodied demon, stripping her of her divinity and branding her with the name Lolth, casting her into the abyss, never to return. Corellon also vanished Varan, knowing of his son's duplicity and involvement in his mother's plots. Though Corellon knew his daughter's innocence, Elistre chose to share the fate of her mother and brother, the Silver Maiden no doubt sensing that the Dark Elves would one day need a reprieve from the path of hate and evil that they would eventually set upon, as they followed their dark goddess, their Spider Queen. In the abyss, many millennia passed by as Lolth raged bitterly over her failed plans. She relieved her frustration with the creature she had been given a missive to protect. As her first act of sadism, she stripped the Dark Elves of their family ties to the Elven race by taking away their true name, Sizranesti, and bestowing upon them the name Drow, which means nothing. Her future acts include instilling a violent matriarchy to subjugate them. The Drow were now her playthings, to do as she saw fit. It was not enough. Her heart still burned with revenge, but she could not abide trying to survive the constant warring of the demon lords. In a moment of lucidity, the Spider Queen eventually abandoned her children and fled to the Nine Hells by following the river Styx. She landed on Kenia, the icy hell of Archduke Mephistopheles. Because of his avaricious ambitions demanding all his attention, Mephistopheles could not stop Lolth claiming the underbelly of the layer as her own. She was free to plot and bide as the devils above her quietly schemed for souls. The Seldarine would be hers one day, and now she had time to think, and freedom to play with her servants. Great goddess, mother of the dark, grant me the blood of my enemies for drink and their living hearts for meat. Grant me the screams of their young for song. Grant me the helplessness of their mates for satisfaction. Grant me the wealth of their houses for my bed. By this unworthy sacrifice I honor you, Queen of Spiders, and beseech of you the strength to destroy my foes. A prayer of a cleric of Loth. All drow feel a sense of creeping unease as they progress in their careers. No matter what roles they've selected in life, all fear the day when they reach a level of achievement that catches the cruel attention of their grim goddess. Even the all-powerful priestesses are not immune to the dreaded Lothanshui games, the punishments of Loth. Loth puts her worshippers through a number of terrifying games throughout their lives. Servants who fail Loth, and there are many ways to fail the capricious goddess, are usually either slain or transformed into horrifying creatures. Drow perceive when each game is about to descend on them. Their senses become painfully acute, and the world seems both more crisply real and more menacing. In some cases, horrifying visions prelude the start of a game, while in others, a sign, such as the sight of a particular-coloured spider, indicates a new game has begun. Different tasks are required of the drow for each game, and they invariably require the drow to risk both their life and all that she has achieved in life to date. The drow call these games punishments, shui in drow, because there is no benefit to passing, other than being able to live. Drow who have managed to evade the terrifying web of Loth's power by gaining the favour of another deity are not affected by these games, but they also become the target of every Loth-worshipping drow. Upon completion of one of these games, a coloured metal spider will approach the drow the next time they rest, and the spider will painfully fuse itself into the drow's skin, marking them as a champion. Males are highly discouraged by drow society from displaying their marks openly, which is why you rarely see them with short sleeves. Because of the cultural disdain for males, it is assumed that any male who bears a badge must have forged it, and is therefore blaspheming against the law and must be executed. There are 9 games. Each of them has Loth test the drow for a characteristic and instantly fail them if they show an undesired trait. Each carries its own form of grotesque punishment. First game, Trineka, the Game of Darkness. Sign, Blue Spider. Characteristic, Pride and Drive. Failure, self-doubt or feelings of unworthiness. The punishment, transformation into an Arakaloth. The game, a random great deed within view of others. Second game, Shwikazar, the Game of Ambition. Sign, Green Spider. Characteristic, opportunism and risk-taking. Failure, hesitation or acceptance. The punishment, the drow is cursed forevermore to fail at any and all tasks, as insanity eats away at their mind. The game, a risky business opportunity, depending on the role. Third game, Shrididera, the Game of the Drider. Sign, Red Spider. Characteristic, discipline and respect. Failure, paranoia or poor self-control. The punishment, transformation into a Drider. The game, to endure harrowing visions of spiders. Unlike the other games, this one never ends. Loth finds it amusing to continue to inflict these visions on her drow, even long after they have passed the other 5 tests. Game 4, Shwiakwel, the Game of Lies. Sign, Purple Spider. Characteristics, guile and charisma. Failure, humiliation or flippancy. The punishment, the drow is cursed with the inability to lie. A death sentence in the cutthroat world of Lathnalor. The game, start a rumor while protecting your own reputation. 5th game, Sridencha, the game of sacrifice. Sign, Yellow Spider. Characteristic, will and fortitude. Failure, cowardice or weakness. The punishment, transformation into a spider-legged horror. The game, sacrifice something valuable as designated by Loth. 6th game, Shridevril, the game of betrayal. Sign, Black Spider. Characteristic, ruthlessness and resourcefulness. Failure, love or incompetence. The punishment is death. And the game, betray your closest companion. Game 7, Trihendrel, the game of domination. Sign, Lavender Spider. Characteristic, leadership and skill. Failure, unknown. Punishment, transformation into a broodmother. The game, subjugate a group designated by Loth. 8th game, Trisashra, the game of vengeance. Sign, White Spider. Characteristic, power. Failure, impotence. Punishment, death. The game, utterly destroy your worst enemy. And the 9th game, Shriloth, the game of Loth. The sign is unknown, the game is unknown, the characteristic is unknown, and the punishment is oblivion. No drow has ever passed this test.